Hey everybody, Plushie here, and today I want to talk about a pretty underrated servant in my personal opinion, which just released on FGO NA. Of course, we're going to be talking about the SSR DPS caster, Izumo no Okuni. Now, traditionally caster DPSs have been looked down upon because they have to suffer the low attack stat as well as the hidden 0.9 times multiplier. However, can Okuni prevail amongst the sea of mediocrity, or is she just going to be drowned out once again as a underwhelming caster DPS? Without further ado, let's find out in today's hot take video of Okuni. So before we even look at her skills, Izumo no Okuni has extremely strong internals. She has a base 0.8% MP gain rate, making her arts card a 2.4% MP gain arts card, which is way above average. Normal servants usually have that number at about 1.8 to 2.0, and even for servants that only have one arts card, which usually make their arts card a little bit better in terms of MP gain, this is still above average from my knowledge. This also means that her quick cards are pretty good because they are 4-hit paired up with the same relatively high 0.8% base MP gain rate. And she also has, in my opinion, the best deck for a quick single target DPS, because obviously having two quick cards allow her to chain, quick brave chains with her MP, but also having two buster cards make her crit very hard with mighty chains and just buster cards in general, and make her a great fit with Summer Scotty. Okuni's first skill is a great blend of offensive and defensive utility. The 30% double color type buff is something we see very common in today's servants, and the quick and buster card selection obviously fits her very well because quick is her main card type and buster is the card type that she wants to crit hard with the most, especially after Summer Scotty comes out. This synergizes very well with her. She also has the standard 2x3 turn evade that is present on so many other quick servants such as Huyan Jewel, Melt, Tyra, just to name a few, and this skill has proven itself to be a great survival skill both in teams and in solos. So overall, this is a pretty solid skill. It has a cooldown of 7, which seems pretty high, but this is kind of deceptive because she actually has a skill that reduces her own cooldown, which will make this a 6-turn cooldown. So when you treat this as a 6-turn cooldown skill, it's really solid. Okuni's second skill are all 1-turn effects, and it's essentially a 1-turn critical damage burst skill that has a relatively short cooldown at 5, and if you want to consider her third skill's cooldown reduction, it's a 4-turn cooldown. So you can kind of use this whenever you have a good hand for critical damage instead of using it as much as possible. The 1000% star absorb up definitely helps her as a caster with lower base star weight. The 100% critical damage up sucks because it only lasts for 1 turn, but it also applies to all cards, which is what Okuni usually wants to do when critting. At the very least, she wants to crit with both her quick and buster cards, so this is good. And finally, the third effect is pretty lackluster. For a single turn, this allows her to cast a 3-turn 10% defense down on the enemy whenever she hits them with crits. So even with perfect RNG and you get 3 cards on the turn and you crit with all those 3 cards, you cast 3 turns of 30% defense down on the enemy, which honestly isn't that amazing either. And then you factor in all the RNG, maybe you don't crit one of the cards, maybe you don't even get 3 cards, and even if you do get 3 cards and you can't crit with all of them, you are potentially sacrificing using your MP just to get 1 extra 10% defense down, which is usually not worth it. So I usually treat this as a bonus effect and just mainly focus on the critical damage and the star absorber. Okuni's third skill has a 1-turn targetable cooldown reduction. Now this is why her skill cooldown suffered, including this one. This skill has a 7-turn cooldown just like her first one, which both of them I feel like should have been cooldown 6. Now you can obviously use this on herself just to mitigate this issue, but you also have the option to put this on another servant to reduce their cooldown if you feel like their skills can actually provide Okuni with even more value than her own skills. Now that really depends on the situation, and I feel like 90% of the time you just put it on herself anyways, but having this flexibility is never bad. This skill is also a self 50 MP battery that is not targetable, but of course 50 MP battery is always good. I don't have to elaborate on that. And finally, this skill also has a 15 star bomb, which pairs really well with her second skill. For example, right off the gate, on the first turn you want to immediately start critting, you can just use this alongside her second skill with the star weight up to get pretty consistent crits, and if you throw in another star bomb or 2, you can definitely get very consistent critical numbers without even making stars for a turn prior. So overall, this is a pretty solid skill as well alongside her entire skill set. Okuni's passives are pretty cute. Essentially, it's a 12% crit up split into 3 different skills, and 12% crit up can be pretty good on a crit-centric servant when she runs out of buffs, but when she already has buffs on, this is probably insignificant. She also generates 2 stars per turn passively, which definitely helps with her star gem, but once again, she probably already overloading on stars in most cases because of her high hit count MP, as well as her quick cards. And then the item construction, the debuff success rate up by 4%, probably can counteract some other magic resist, but that is about as far as it'll go. It can be pretty helpful because she has 2 debuff based steroids, one on her MP, one on her second skill, so maybe it can help sometimes. And then finally, the 4% passive arts up just makes her already good arts card even slightly better. So overall, it's nothing too crazy, nothing too amazing, but at least the flavor is cute. Okuni's MP is a single target 10 hit quick MP, meaning that it generates a lot of stars just because of how many hit it has. It also casts a 20% quick down for 3 turns on the enemy before the MP actually does damage, meaning that she can immediately take advantage of the quick down from her MP. This is also a 3 turn effect, meaning that she can ramp up her MP damage the more she MPs consecutively. And finally, the overcharge effect is a straightforward anti-demonic damage from 150% all the way up to 200%. Now, demonic might not be as numerous as maybe anti-earth or anti-man, but it is still pretty common among servants and non-servants, and a lot of bosses are also demonic, so this is a pretty good anti-trait. And also, this is a special effect anti-trait damage instead of power mod. So the difference between the two, I might make a video elaborating on it, but essentially, if it's a power mod, it applies to the face cards after the MP as well, but it scales additively to other buff effects like critical damage or card mods, and if it is a special effect mod, it means that it scales independently with other types of buffs. So if you have a character that you heavily buffed with other supports, this special effective mod will allow you to do more damage, scale better with already existing buffs, as opposed to a power mod. So overall, this is a simple and strong MP that encourages her to spam her MP, which is also very easy to do because of how good her face cards are. You should really never look at the refund of a single target quick servant to determine how often they can spam their MP. You should definitely look at their face cards instead. Now let's get into the review for a little bit. So in terms of farming, she really doesn't have anything notable. She, just like every other single target quick servant minus Saber Medusa, is not able to loop, but at the very least she is a 50 MP battery charger with an anti-trait that is relatively common among servants and also non-servants. So I can definitely see her popping up in some kind of multi-core setup where it involves farming against demonic trait enemies, but other than that, there really isn't that much to say in my personal opinion. As a single target caster DPS, people might argue that on the damage spreadsheet, Okuni's MP damage is lower than a lot of other options like Charlotte Corday, Ilia, or Sanzang, therefore she is not that good of a single target caster DPS. Well, I actually hard disagree with that, and here are a couple of reasons why. First of all, the low MP damage of Okuni is very deceptive because this fails to consider her ability to ramp up her MP damage by repeatedly casting that quick down on the enemies. This also gives her the benefit of having better sustained damage because even after you run out of your buffs after 3 turns, she can continuously do respectable damage against the enemy because she can still get this essentially quick up effect as long as she keep reapplying the quick down on the enemy by using her MP. And also she has an innate anti-demonic anti-trait, so she also has an easier time to beat them as long as she finds that specific anti-trait. On the flip side, Charlotte Corday also has a deceptively high MP damage when her MP damage is mostly carried by her anti-skill sealed enemy, and she only has a 1-turn skill seal in her skill set and a unreliable confusion effect to make up for another turn. So Charlotte Corday's damage normally is actually a lot worse than any damage spreadsheet will show you. The second reason is that Okuni is realistically the only single target caster that has respectable critical damage, because in essence she is built like a crit DPS. She has a great deck for critting, especially when you consider Summer Scotty. She has great skill sets that both enable her to crit and also bolsters her crit damage, and her MP generates even more stars to make her crits even more consistent. The MP also increases the quick down on the enemy that helps her crit damage with her quick cards in particular. particular. So overall, Okuni is going to be doing a lot of card damage compared to any other options for caster. And even if you assume her MP damage is lower than other options, her crit damage on her cards more than makes up for it. In comparison, Charlotte Corday is not going to be doing any crit damage with her cards. She is generating stars with her MP, but usually for an art servant, you're just using it to regain MP with a critted arts card instead. And compare that to characters such as Sanzong and Ilya, who doesn't have nearly enough ways to generate stars, even if you take into consideration Koyanskaya of Light, and because their deck is once again horrible, plagued with 3 arts cards on both of them, you know, they just don't have the ability to actually do good crit damage because they only have 1 buster card. My final point is that Okuni is actually one of the servants that can loop her MP consistently compared to some other SSR competitions in the caster class. So her MP looping is not going to be as good as someone like Queen of Sheba or even Charlotte Corday, because if you're born an art servant, you inherently have a way easier time of using your MP back to back because your MP itself refunds quite a bit of MP already. While Okuni can't really refund well with her single target quick MP, she can get a lot of MP back by using her extremely strong face cards. As we mentioned when we first started this video, both her arts and quick cards are extremely strong in the MP gain department. And also she gets a lot from spamming her MP. Once again, the quick down that is spammable allows her to bolster her MP damage as well as her quick critical damage. So her DPS actually gets a lot better the more she MPs. And compare that to someone like Ilya and Sanzong, both of them have really crappy arts cards because they have triple arts decks, and unless you're running supports with also triple arts decks, you can't really take advantage of chaining a lot of arts chains together to get your MP back. And Sanzong has a small MP gain boost and also a very long cooldown 80 MP battery, very much falls off in a longer challenge quest fight. Same goes with Ilya, despite her ability to guarantee 3 MPs initially with the double Koyan light system, you know, refreshing her MP battery. After those 3 turns, she's just kind of completely out of gas anyway. So essentially, Okuni excels in both burst damage with her extremely powerful crits and sustain damage by ramping up that quick down on the enemy even after you've run out of buffs. So she just far surpasses every other caster DPS in my personal opinion. Her competition more so comes from other classes such as servants like Meltorilis, who are built a lot more similarly to Okuni in terms of their playstyle. Now obviously when the discussion becomes alter ego versus casters, it's a completely other can of worms that I'm not going to go into today, but just know that Okuni in the realm of casters is absolutely the top dog DPS. She's so good in fact that I do think she's absolutely worth using in neutral situations, especially as an anti-demonic counter, because out of all of the anti-demonic single targets, I think Okuni is still one of the best DPSs just because of how easily she can spam her MP and how strong her crits are. Overall, Okuni is an extremely overlooked DPS because people don't like caster DPSs. Yes, she does have to suffer the base 0.9 multiplier and a relatively low attack stat, but in the realm of casters, she is absolutely the top dog as I've mentioned before, and she is very good in general as a crit DPS, and especially spikes in power level after the release of Summer Scotty. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and best of luck for rolling Okuni in FGO NA, and I'll see you guys in the next one.